contact with has really been above and beyond as far as accommodating anything that we needed. So it's been a really good experience for us.
Good.
So I'll get into what I reviewed, and then Mark will go over the chapters that he reviewed. File review, it's done in part EMS now on the computer. The files were set up really, really good. It made the review for us really easy, going through them and viewing the proofs and everything. Things that I requested were sent back the quickest I've ever gotten them on any one site I've done. I've been doing these since '98.
Wow.
So kudos to your staff that worked on the files and everything, because they got everything back to me. But most of it for the on-site, and that's seldom happens. So the public hearing, there was 2 speakers, Brookville Chief and Miami Township Chief. Both of them were very positive and supportive of the agency for reaccreditation. The call-in session, there was 2 that called in, German Township Chief and Columbus Accreditation Manager. And then there was a Matt King that called in. He's actually going to email me a letter. The 2 agencies were very supportive. Matt says he's very supportive of law enforcement and FAR and everything, but he had an incident that he questioned how it was handled, but he said he was still very supportive of Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and the operation. So I'm not sure what the incident was. When I get that, I'll send it to Brenda so she can get it to you, and you'll be able to see what that's about.
Okay.
So he's supposed to get that to me by the end of next week. Interviews and ride-alongs. We interviewed quite a few people in-house and also outside. I talked to 2 township administrators, the school superintendent, in addition to yourself, and also rode around with Chris Kidwell on a ride-along. He had 2 calls of service when we were out. One was a civil dispute, and one of them was a welfare check. On the civil dispute, he was very professional, very informative, gave the victim the information he needed to proceed. It was a husband-wife thing where the wife had taken stuff and he wanted to report it stolen, and he explained to him that it was a civil issue and the steps he needed to take to rectify that. The files, there's 484 standards. 325 of those you were mandatory in compliance with, and 73 of the other than mandatory you were in compliance with, and 86 were NA by function or for some other reason that you just don't do them. And that puts you in compliance with 100% of the other than mandatory standards. And this is the first on-site I've done that's been 100%.
Nice.
I've never had one before that was 100% in compliance with the other than mandatory.
Good.
So kudos to you all for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Status changes. We did change the status of 2 standards, both of them dealing with the academy. 3324 is the Academy 1 dealing with agency-specific training. You all had that in compliance, or you had it in A, but you all comply with that because you do the agency-specific training in-house. So that was moved from NA to the in compliance.
Okay.
And then 3342 is the recruit training program, which deals with the academy training prior to them coming to here. You had it as in compliance, but since they get the training before they come here, it's NA for you all because they already have that training. So there were no applied discretions. The chapters I reviewed were chapters 1 through 41. Chapter 1 deals with law enforcement role and authority, which is your firearms training, bias-based profiling, less lethal use of force, most of those type things. All the training stuff was well documented. Chapter 2 is jurisdiction, that's your mutual aid. well documented. And 3 is your contractual agreements with Washington, Harrison Township, and Jefferson Township, which was well documented. 11 is your organization administration, was defines your protocol when chief is not around, things like that, along with the direction chapter and written directives. Planning and research and goals and objectives and crime analysis. The goals and objectives crime analysis were very good and well documented. Crime analysis bullets are sent out daily, weekly, and monthly, which is, and they were very informative with charts and information in them. Planning and research, the one area that I thought was weak in those was the anticipated workload and population trends and anticipated personnel levels. Most of those only had a statement to evaluate personnel levels or continue to evaluate workload population trends. What we should see in there is projected population for each year of the 5-year plan. What's the population actually going to be in those 5 years? And also projected personnel increases or decreases. Those should all, your workload analysis should actually say, we're looking to decrease personnel by this amount or increase by this amount. And that, if something happens in the future and you get sued or something, you've got it documented the amount of personnel that you need. And even though you don't get it, at least you're documenting it and you're covered because you're saying, we need this amount of personnel to effectively operate. So that could be stronger in those areas. The
We'll work on that.
reserve program, got an excellent reserve program and also volunteer program. I added up, because I asked for the number of volunteers and the number of hours worked. You have 21 volunteers and over the 3-year period, 8,778 hours of volunteer work. And that's very good. I did notice that it had gone down every year.
Yeah.
But that's still an excellent program and a good money saving with those hours of work and what they do for you. Fiscal management is the cash funds accounting. This is the first agency that I have not had to actually go in and look at the cash funds on site. The documentation in the files, proof those, and you actually go above the standard for the quarterly audit and do it monthly. So the proofs in the file were very good on that. And then you get the classification, job descriptions, benefits, your normal benefits, but you do have an education incentive, $2,400 a year. And the deputy I rode with actually took advantage of that, moving from a civilian position into the sworn position, and used that to pay for his academy training. So, discipline and grievance procedures well documented. Recruitment, the tracking database that you have set up for that is excellent, and it shows the dates and everything for each step. And this is one of the first agencies that I've actually seen a database on it. Most places just have a record, handwritten record of that. So that was a good one. Selection, protocol, and recruiting was all well done. I know that you have difficulty with minorities. A lot of agencies do, but your recruitment plan and stuff is well documented on what you're trying to do to recruit those people. Training was well documented in part EMS. Promotion, that is only for sergeant and lieutenant, which was well documented. The others are appointed. And performance evaluations, the one thing, when I come in on the training, performance evaluation, things like that, it says all employees receive those. I want to see for each year that all employees have done that, because those are critical things for your agency. And the person that tracks the performance evaluations uses a roster to do that and highlights it, showing that they come in. She didn't have the past 2 years, but she had the one for the current year that she kept, and I advised her in the future just to keep those and put those in the file showing that everybody turned those in, to show that everybody received those, because some people fall through the cracks as far as with an agency of your size and stuff like that. That's not hard for someone to fall through the cracks, so that's a good way of keeping track of those. One thing I did notice in the analysis with the tables that have to be completed, some of the analysis and tables, the numbers didn't add up. They were different. So just make sure that the people that's completing the table and the people doing the analysis get together and make sure those numbers are identical. Because we had to change some numbers here on site due to different numbers. Other than that, that was my review of everything. And like I said, this was the easiest site that I have done. And I've done a lot of them. So kudos to your staff and personnel for that. I'll let Mark talk about what he's done.
Right, I had chapters 42 on to the end, and I just listed, instead of going by chapter, I've listed the significant positive issues. And on our chapter worksheets, we have significant positive issues, significant negative issues, file maintenance 20%, applied discretion, time-sensitive stuff, and then just essential services, which is sometimes a regurgitation of what you do that the standards say you have to do. And on this site, I have way more significant positive issue stuff to write than I've ever had before, which is kind of cool. And again, everything I'm going to talk about here ties back into what I mentioned when we first met. Is the most significant positive issue here is the people. I think everybody's very engaging, and they embrace what they do and their professionalism, and they have an understanding of accreditation, and they have a buy-in, and they all know what the red files mean. When they get the red files from Brenda, they know that that's something they got to take care of. Going down the list here, the CIC that you have that offers an array of investigative service to everybody, I don't think you find that in a lot of places. That's pretty fantastic. And what that's going to happen, the 29 agencies, I believe, that connects to that, that's going to be a big deal for you guys, I hope. The participation of a number of long-term multi-jurisdictional task force entities that you work with, that any multi-jurisdictional I can say the word, everybody getting together and working together, those things, and a task force, that's wicked awesome. And to stay in those things, it's easy to get in them and then people get out, but I think you guys are in for the long haul with those groups. The range program, you couldn't hope for a better chance of making a difference, or at least showing your very best efforts of making a difference on issues you're facing here with your drug epidemic. The juvenile SRO school district, the STARS program, that was your initiative, is that right, Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
That's something I'm going to hopefully take back and try to get something going like that for us. We don't have a bullying thing necessarily, but we don't want to wait till we have a problem to find a solution necessarily. There was a constant engagement of your people with the community at every opportunity that I saw. And of course, you got a little thing from Brenda that I emailed her today on a little moment that occurred yesterday on the ride out. I like the supervisors having the reference guide for unusual occurrences. You don't see that in most places. And you guys addressed ICS principles a lot better than a lot of places do. That's part of all of your event planning, special operations. It's on the form, your deconfliction's in there, all that stuff's right by the numbers. And I cannot get my agency to move in that direction. We just can't do it. We have big events, and you try to say, hey, let's follow the ICS plan that we have on paper that we're going to do, and nobody wants to do it. So it's good that you have that in place and you do it every chance you get. Let's see. IA Sergeant was crazy. I enjoyed talking to him.
Correct there.
Yeah, he was a kindred spirit, I'm afraid. Your public information, you're on standard 54.1.2, very well done for active engagement, especially your active engagement, Sheriff, with the media, to as best as possible control the narratives that are out there. You get in quickly, you're direct, you're focused, and you say what needs to be said, and it may not be pretty, but you tell them how things went, and then they can report something else different than they choose to. So I really like that. Get out in front and control that narrative that you do. Let's see. The traffic, the annual report from traffic services, that helps meet that 61.1 standard that so many agencies fall short on. You did that. I go to those and think I know what we have struggled with. So I go to see, okay, here's what I'm going to go look in there to see. Wow, that's amazing. So the rest of the chapter I know is good too. I think it's 61.1 and the last bullet in that one, I think, on trends and whatnot. You did a fantastic job with that annual report from them. Property tax are just the kind of people you want to have in that. The people who are perfectionists and are always concerned that things aren't right because they're constantly making sure that everything is right. They were outstanding in their efforts. The ride-out with Deputy Bowling was good yesterday. He has a strong knowledge of his district, and the briefing after that with detectives there, very lively discussion about everything going on in their district, and I got to see all the strip joints on Dixie.
Was that after dinner last night?
And we may or may not have stopped at some of them, but that's not going to be in the report, though. You don't have to worry about that. Your folks display, like I said, a much higher than normal knowledge, understanding, and buy-in of accreditation. So that's always really good to see. And I'm really thankful that you that your communications in jail are separately accredited. Saved me a lot of time. I really appreciate that. And thanks for not having a police academy. That's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Lastly, I would just like to say thanks for the hospitality. Again, everyone we met was very professional and accommodating. The hotel was great, and Brenda, she was right there for anything we needed. So,
Great.
any questions for us?
No? You guys have any questions?
There was one tiny thing on the property room, and this is a super small thing, but it could be an issue, is everything else, guys come in, they log their stuff in, it goes in a locker and it's closed and nobody else can get to that piece of evidence once they've left it. But the refrigerator, it can have a rape kit, and then somebody else comes in with an OVI kit, and they open the same refrigerator, and then everything's accessible. And they make the refrigerators with they're stupid expensive, but there's no way around it. They make the refrigerators, you open it and there's 6 little compartments in there. You take the little key and you put your stuff in, you drop the key in a little hole, and you can have 6 items in there. What people are doing to get around the expense of those, because they're stupid expensive, is they're selling little insert kits that go in little small refrigerators, the same kind of thing, but it's like a tenth the price. And it's just one little small thing that, for all my years going to testifying, I've never had a defense attorney ever attack the chain of custody of evidence. For some reason, they just don't ever seem to ever ask those questions. But if it were to ever happen, a separate thing in there inside the fridge might be to your benefit. But that's teeny tiny stuff.
That makes sense.
But all this stuff goes in the front room, and the refrigerator back there, they're all next to each other back there, so it's not a big thing, but you can say, well, only these 2 people have access to everything at once, instead of, all the deputies have access to everything that's in the refrigerator. Again, it's just a super small thing. It's not in any report or anything like that.
Other than that, that's all we have.
Perfect. What's the next step there, Brenda?
I put them on a plane, and I'll see you next week.
Wednesday.
You're coming to work next week? That's not what